How do you deal with a Cyberdemon? Well, as the iconic line now goes, pro tip, to defeat the Cyberdemon, shoot at it until it dies. But what if the Cyberdemon isn't shooting at you? What if the Cyberdemon is on your side? What if you're both trapped on the wrong side of hell and you both need to work together in order to escape? That is the very premise of Ascension Denied. This is one of those wonderful Doom mods that turns the very concept of Doom upside down, stripping you completely of weapons and forcing you to find creative solutions and use keen observation in order to bypass the myriad obstacles in your way. Key to this is your ability to issue orders to your Cyberdemon companion. You can tell them to move to a particular spot, you can ask them to follow or stay, or you can designate something for them to shoot at. This is kind of critical for when it comes to exiting an area, as the Cyberdemon rocket is the only thing that can destroy the door that leads to the next area, and in terms of canny maneuvering, sometimes the only efficient way to cross a gap is via a Cyberdemon's head. On the flip side, however, not every path during Ascension Denied is Cyberdemon accessible, instead forcing you to leverage your more compact stature, let's say, in order to fit through tight spaces, and ascend vines in order to cross tricksy gaps, not to mention avoid environmental hazards that, while not all that troublesome for a Cyberdemon to set foot in, are much more immediately deadly for a standard-sized Doomguy. Aside from the unique nature of Ascension Denied's gameplay, another strong element of this mod's design would certainly be in the visuals department. There's a pleasingly creative usage of textures throughout the course of Ascension Denied. As you might expect, it's largely taken from the Hell tile set, maybe a sprinkling of tech base here and there, but there's certainly more than enough variety from one section to the next that they don't ever feel too samey, but you also get a nice sense of progression as you get deeper into it. I'd certainly say that some of my favorite texture usages involve a giant rotating cylinder of those fleshy hell faces, just scaled up to be intimidatingly large, and much later on there is a really great visual of what essentially feels like a riff on the concept of the Panopticon, but, hell. And big huge. It's worth mentioning that while the focus of the gameplay here is not on combat but more about environmental puzzle solving, there are still occasions where you'll have to contend with hostile demons, the first of which involving a horde of pinkies, which in any other circumstance probably wouldn't be so much of a big deal, but considering you're distinctly unarmed, it's up to your Cyberdemon buddy to rain down the rockets and take care of them for you. But pro tip, in such situations, it's probably worth giving those rockets a wide berth. That's not to say they can't be useful though. While rockets can indeed be used to dispatch hostile demons, target switches, destroy doors, probably my favorite usage out of all of them is giving you a quick punt across a previously uncrossable gap. Will it hurt a little? Absolutely. But mercifully, this does include recharging health, so it's not going to sting for too long. As you play through the successive acts of Ascension Denied, it's undeniable that the author behind this, German Peter, has studied some of the greats when it comes to how to pace this stuff out, introduce these mechanics in more simpler, easier to understand forms, before reconfiguring them into increasingly more devious combinations. According to the notes of the mod release itself, its inspirations include the likes of Ico, Portal, the Talos Principle, and of course, The Last Guardian. That last one, a particularly large influence it seems, what with the dynamic between small, controllable player character and a much larger creature that you can issue commands to. But yes, as you get deeper into these stages, the solutions to them do indeed become ever more convoluted, and sometimes it will ask you to just sit for a minute and have a little think. Consider the routes that you can take, the orders you can issue, and maybe find a more opportunistic vantage point in order to see what comes next. One section in particular that sticks in my mind is the need to have the Cyberdemon on a central plinth that you can raise and lower before then finding yourself a decent enough spot in order to issue the shoot command for the Cyberdemon to hit the relevant switch. Now this could have been a real annoyance if it wasn't handled the right way. And what saves this, in my opinion, is just a nice little quality of life addition, and that is the inclusion of these little video screens occasionally scattered about. Sometimes they'll show you the outcome of a button press, sometimes they'll just give you a good perspective on where the Cyberdemon is and where you might need to position yourself next. It's not a obnoxiously glaring objective marker, but just enough of a poke in the right direction. But going back to my praise of the pacing, the mod here is broken up into 3 separate acts, each of them with a distinct start-finish point, and each of them adding just a little bit of extra spice into the mix, in particular the 3rd act, which starts off with the phrase separation anxiety. And in all honesty, it's a real impressive example of how to give you all of these mechanics and then make things feel dramatically different by just whipping them away for a certain portion of time. Not to mention, it actually does the concept of having to backtrack through previously traversed level without making it feel like a chore. Instead, it's, oh boy, now I get to revisit these sections with that extra mechanic back in play, and just gives you that nice feeling of, oh hey, I get to play more of this. Fantastic. Now, in sum total, it's not a long mod. How long it takes you to beat will entirely depend on your familiarity with puzzle-style mechanics and how long it takes you to figure stuff out. For me personally, I took about an hour, 20 minutes working my way through this, which is perfectly fine, more so for the fact that at no point did it ever feel like it was unnecessarily dragging itself out. It gets in, shows you a good time, gets out, and all in all, I left this feeling tremendously impressed and tremendously satisfied. But yes, Ascension Denied, a wonderfully unique Doom mod, a completely different style of gameplay from what you may typically be accustomed to, and one that I heavily recommend. If you're interested in giving it a whirl for yourself, you'll find the link, as usual, in the description below. Feel free to become a channel member or a patron if you wish to gain early access to these videos ad-free. And crucially, if you've enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like, feel free to leave a comment, and if you're not already, why not subscribe? But until next time, this has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.